Hey guys, when I finished yesterday's notes talking about chapter 10, section 2, we were talking about the government and how they actually were organized as a Senate and as a republic. And when we finished, I was telling you that the republic had come to an end because Julius Caesar had gotten murdered that day at work. And so we're going to pick up from there what happened after Julius died. All right, so it's the year 27 BC. Look how close we are to the year 0. We're about ready to cross over, and a lot of stuff is going to change when that happens. So this saying is very common at that time. Veni vidi vici, I came, I saw, and I conquered. Julius Caesar, right? Because he was going out and he had attacked all these other places to grow the empire. So Rome is went into this civil war after he was killed because everybody was fighting to figure out who was going to become the new leader of Rome. His nephew shows up. Now, this nephew of his name is Octavian. He actually is the son of, he's an adopted son, essentially. He was his brother's son, and his brother had died, and Julius and his wife had taken him in and raised him and essentially adopted him. So he is his son, but he refers to him as his son and nephew at times. His name is Octavian. Octavian shows up at the Senate, and he walks into the Senate door, and he tells everyone there this terrible message that everyone is so upset. They're all booing him because they don't like him or his family, right? They just killed his uncle dad, right? And outside the doors of the Senate, Octavian has brought an army with him, and he has them waiting outside, and he tells all the senators inside, listen, you are either going to make me the new leader of Rome, or when you leave work today and walk out those doors, my army is going to attack you and kill each one of you. So, like, what choice do they have, right? They have to support the goals that he has. So they agree to make him the new leader, and they give him this new title, which is Augustus. And that name, Augustus, means that he is loved above all others. And can you just see it? Can you imagine? Like, they were all like gagging over this idea that now they have Julius Caesar's son or nephew as their new leader. And they hated him so much that they murdered Julius Caesar. And now, because their own life has been threatened, they have to put that family back in power. So I'm sure it was a pretty terrible day. He immediately makes this decision that Rome is no longer going to be an empire or a republic. He says that they will not be ruled by the people any longer. He didn't feel that they could handle that responsibility. And so he switches it from a republic where people voted to an empire, and he says that he is the new emperor of Rome. Can you imagine the United States is a republic? Can you imagine any leader ever having said, hey, we're not going to let people vote anymore, we're just going to become this empire? I mean, it would be mass chaos, right? Okay, so we go into this time period that gets this title called Pax Romana, which means Roman peace. Augustus changed the history of Rome, right? They're no longer a republic. For the next 500 years, of course, he's not alive through the whole thing, but for the next 500 years, Rome is controlled by an emperor instead of allowing people to vote. What happened was, even though people were super upset with Augustus when he came and took over, he really did get Rome under control and brought them back into peace. He starts a police department. He starts what they consider a fire department. They called it the fire brigade. He adds new territory to the empire because it is an empire, so they're trying to grow it, right? The economy improved. You guys, I want you to think about what an economy is. There's two parts of it. I said there's two things that are really involved in economy: jobs and money, right? You have a job and you're making enough money to pay for the things that you need, and you're going out and spending your money in your community so that you can create more jobs. So he goes out and his army is attacking these new lands. They're joining the Roman Empire, and they're so excited. Like, normally a place would not want to be attacked by another society. Places back then were happy to be taken over by the Roman Empire. They wanted to be a part of the greatest and richest empire of all time back then. And so they were super loyal to Rome, and they used to say civis Romanus sum, which is a Latin phrase That means I am a citizen of Rome. They were excited to be a part of that. So it was a good thing for them back then. Rome remained prosperous. That means wealthy and growing. They were doing super well for 200 years, even though Augustus died in 14 AD. This is a huge thing. 200 years is a long time for a civilization. United States is just a little over 200 years old. And can you imagine that for 200 straight years, we were doing well? I mean, we've had some really low dips in our society as far as our economy goes, where things were really not very good, and then they picked up, and then they got bad again. Think about the Great Depression. You haven't learned about that, but that's going to be coming in the early 1900s, where most people, like more than 50% of citizens, lost their homes and jobs and were homeless. So 200 years of prosperity is an amazing, amazing thing. So while this was all going on, their army was growing and becoming more powerful, and they were seen as the most powerful in the world. Now, they had lots of turnover as far as their emperors go after Augustus died. The first one, of course, that they had, let's list these here by good and bad. First good one that they had was Augustus. He changed everything. The second one was a guy named Claudius. He starts to change the law for the empires that they, or I should say, the city-states that they go and conquer, and then they make them become a part of the Roman Empire. He changes laws so that those people who are a part of the new empire can become citizens, and they can participate in different activities. The next one, and probably the most famous one that was a really good emperor, was a guy named Marcus Aurelius. He thought that people should have simple lives. He thought that they shouldn't be overly ruled by law, that he should allow you to have your good judgment to be loyal to Rome, because Rome was such an amazing society back then. He thought, only a crazy person wouldn't really want to be a part of their society. So he trusted his citizens to make good choices. But he did lead well, and he started schools, he opened hospitals and orphanages for children, and he passed laws to protect slaves from some of the terrible things that were going on with them. He was famous for this quote that said, "In the morning, let this thought be present." You should say, in other words, you should say to yourself when you get out of bed every day, "I am rising to do the work of a human being." And what he was trying to say, even though that's a pretty simple phrase, what he was trying to say is, we all have to contribute. If we want to live in an amazing place and we want to be a part of this amazing society and civilization, we all have to contribute. So everyone gets out of bed each day and thinks, how can I help my society? I'm here to work, I'm here to help, and I'm here to be a part of this effort to make us and keep us a great civilization. So he trusted his citizens and enforced that his citizens would all participate and be helpful. All right, the bad ones. This guy, Caligula, he was cruel and mentally unstable. There's a story about him going around that's gone around for years and years, that Caligula had this horse that, like some of us have a favorite pet or whatever. This horse was like his favorite animal pet that he had ever had. He considered it to be a part of his family and brought it to the Senate one day and tried to convince all of the senators to vote on it to allow his horse to become one of the senators. So definitely not normal. The next one was this guy, Nero. He was a really bad guy, very, very violent, killed many people in his family, including his wife and his mother. His wife was pregnant at the time that he killed her, so he was a bad, bad dude. All right, government law. So Roman Empire stretched from Britain and Spain, which is on the edge of Europe, all the way into Iran, which of course is in Asia. They offered citizenship to the people that they conquered their land, like I said before, and people spoke Latin. That's some of the phrases that I've been sharing with you. So here are the basic rules. If you lived in the Roman Empire, all free people have equal rights. The key word there is free, because they did have slavery, but all free people had equal rights. You're innocent until you're proven guilty. Accused people have the right to defend themselves in court. Judges will make the final decision about if someone is innocent or guilty. And people have rights that the government cannot take away. And this should make you think, wow, that sounds kind of familiar. I hope you're thinking about American law and our Constitution and our Bill of Rights that gives us many of these same rights. All right, entertainment. You guys want to know about this? I'm going to do a special lesson just about this. The Coliseum seated more than 50,000 people who came to watch these organized battles between animals and gladiators. Gladiators were typically prisoners. They were people who had been arrested for something, or they were a slave, and they fought each other and animals to the death. When the gladiator fight would begin, the gladiators would all walk out together and they would salute the emperor. He would typically be there seated at one end of the Colosseum and up in the seats, right, not down low where the fighting was taking place. They would all come out and greet the emperor and say, you know, we who are about to die salute the emperor, something like that. And then fighting would begin. Now, the emperor had the ultimate say whether each person or animal lived or died. So during the fight, if he thought it was going really, really well, he would give a thumbs up. And that meant that we should let that gladiator or animal live. And if he didn't think that they had fought well enough, he would do a thumbs down, and that meant finish him off. Kill whoever it was or whatever animal it was, finish them off. There was this famous writer at the time, his name was Seneca, and he would come to the gladiator fights and watch them, and he absolutely hated it. He thought it was disgusting. What you have to understand is Romans went and saw these gladiator fights like we would go and see a football game or a baseball game or a soccer game. They loved it. It was their entertainment. They didn't see it as being sick or cruel like we, I hope all of us, would be like, I am not going to go watch someone get murdered down in this ring. But for them, it was normal. It was entertainment. It was something to do on a Saturday afternoon, as crazy as that sounds. This writer, he hated it. And he said, you know, they have nothing down there to protect their body. The only way you can get out of being a gladiator or being in those fights is to die. That's your only exit. What would happen is these people who ran the Colosseum fights, they would tell the gladiators if they were free or if they had been slaves or if they had been prisoners, listen, if you go out and fight really well, we're going to give you your freedom. So put on a really good show today and we will give you freedom if it goes well. These guys would go out and give it their all in the fight, and then it would be such an exciting show that when it was over, the people who were in charge of the Colosseum would say, you know, look, too many people are going to want to come back and see you fight again. I'm sorry, but, you know, we're not going to free you this time. And then they would make them the promise again another day. So there was no way out except to die. All right, I want you guys to go over to Canvas. I have a couple questions in there for you about what I covered. Keep an eye out. I'm going to be doing, I think, a What's That Thing Gladiator edition. You guys will like that. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the Colosseum and what went on there. All right, take care, guys. See you soon.